Hey everyone, today's overview and review video is on Carnegie. So Carnegie is basically all about employees, investments, and producing some goods. Also, if you're new here, my name is Krissy and this is 2 Sheep, 1 Wheat. If there's a board game out there that you'd like for me to review, please let me know what that is down in the comments below. Like this video and of course subscribe to the channel. Also, if you enjoy this type of content, we have added members to the channel where we go live and learn new board games. So if that's something you're into, that link is also down in the description below. So let's go down to the table and take a look at setup. Okay, so obviously we have the main board here. Now I do have the game set up for a 2-player game. This is a pretty big board, so you're gonna have to block some things off on the board, which is just using these gray-black tokens right here. So basically to figure out which locations on the board is going to be blocked off, you're just going to take the solo cards that come with the game, and you're going to flip them. You're going to block off this top location here, which are the investment options up at the top. And then the 4th row right here is going to have 2 to 4 names, city names, and those are the ones that's going to be blocked off as well. This one is Salt Lake City and Reno, and both of those have been blocked off right here. So that is how you have to set up the game for a 2-player variant. Next, we have the department tiles over here. So for a 2-player game, you're going to have 16 tiles. Depending on how many number of players that you're playing with, you're going to have a different number of these up top. Now, we do start off with 1 random one, so the first player would take whichever random one that they want. Let's just go ahead and take this one, and I can explain it a little bit later on in the video. Then we have our timeline over here. These are basically the actions that we're able to use during the game. These are just set up at random, 4 different tiles. They are double-sided, so just at random, you're going to pick 4 of them, and this is going to determine the locations in which order that we're going to be able to do our actions in. And then for player setup, you get 5 workers, and they all go at the beginning of each department here, and then you're going to get another 5 workers, and they're going to be face down because they're not actually hired yet, they're not working, and they are going into your lobby. You'll be able to move these around at the beginning of your turn. We do start with some resources, so we get 4 goods each, and we get $12. We do start with 3 on our projects tab over here. The very first one is going to come off, and it's going to need to be placed in any larger city on the same location that it's coming from. This is the timeline markers. First player is going to choose which of the actions on the timeline. So at the beginning, we do have those 5 extra workers that are sitting in the lobby. You can now move those 5 workers, and you have the option to move them up to 6 spots. So that would look something like this. Anytime you're moving it is going to be 1 movement, and whenever you're moving them, they have to be laid down because we have not paid to use them yet. So now before moving our workers, I'll go over the departments that we start with. Anything with a meeple on it is human resource. Now this basically just allows the player to move an employee to a different area within the company. So that's why this one already starts with 1 here, and we have 1 here. So there are 3 moves each. So this is what is allowing us to move them now. The more that you add in here, the more you'll be able to do it. So this one has a total move of 9 if you were ever to add an extra worker in here, which is something that we can do. You can move 1 here, so that would be 1 movement. Then we go to this one right here. This department right here is management. Management basically allows the players to acquire goods, which is these 4 here that we start the game with. Or if you wanted to collect money instead, then you can do that at this spot as well. And then if you wanted, there is another option on here. You have the choice between either or. If you wanted $6 instead or 2 goods cubes, you would have to move your worker off here and place it onto the board in any of these 4 locations. Basically would play them right here in any of the locations. And I'll get to what happens whenever we place our workers on here a little bit later on. So that's what would happen with this one here. There is another management option department here on the board, and that's this one right here. So this one here is basically allowing you to place another department down if you have the ability to pay for it. For 1 good, if you have a worker, you're allowed to move your workers into empty spots as well. So say I wanted to move one of these workers. We already have 1, so we have 5 remaining action moves. So this would be, we already have 1, so 2, 3, 4. So that would be 4. We would have 2 left. If you had a worker not in a department like that, it would only cost 1 good to place this here. But if you didn't have any workers, it would cost you 2 goods instead to place that department down. So that is the other management option here, the department. Then we move on to this one. This is construction. This is going to allow you to build these discs here that we have over here on our projects tab. As long as you have discs and you have goods, you'll be able to place those out onto the board. So we do have one worker here, so you would have to place your worker out, and you would have to pay the cubes, the goods, for whichever disc that you wanted to take off. And you would have to place it in that specific icon onto the board. I'll get through the board and why you want to place your discs out and how you want to place them out a little bit later on in the video, so keep watching. So that one was here, and then we go on to this one. This is research and development. So this basically allows players, you can kind of design new projects and develop transportation networks. So to get more cubes over here in our projects tab, so this is basically moving it out. Then once you pull it out, you'll be able to place another cube out on it, and the more that you do that, you'd be able to. So in this case, each worker here is 3 development actions or building actions. So that would be 1, and the reason that you want as many here is so that you can build up here, because at the end of the game, the more cities that you can link up, the better. You'll end up with a higher score at the end of the game. So let's just say that we bump this up for this one. Another location on the board that you can bump up for your development network is these trains here in all 4 different locations. So these also cost different move actions to go up on them. That would cost 1, that one was 1, so that is 2, and I have 1 more left. Now, basically, you want to place out your cubes, or you want to place out your discs, because you're also placing out your workers. And the more workers that you have out, this is basically kind of an income phase. So the way that this works is, depending on the location that you're selecting over here for the timeline, is going to affect the different locations. So right now I have 2 workers on the south location, which would be this one here or this one, depending where you are and how many rounds you're into the game. So let's say we want south, we're going to do an income turn for that one. You would take your workers back, and however many workers that you have here is how much this is going to trigger wherever your disc is up here on the track. So these 2 workers would be $2 each, so you would end up getting $4 whenever you return these back. And anytime you're returning a worker back, it is going to go into your lobby. And then during this income phase, however many open spots you have for your projects tab here is also what you're going to get back. Now, without pulling this out, you can already tell what is going to be the next one because of this little track right here. I will take it out completely so that we can zoom in a little bit better here for you. It starts off by you getting $1 every time that you bring it back. It doesn't matter how many workers that you have, it is always going to be $1 until you unlock the next location. So this one, you could either get another worker. We have extra workers up at the top. There are 5 extra workers. Or you can get $1, and then the next one is $1, and then after that is going to be victory points. All of the other projects tabs are similar, but just a little bit different. This one would be about the same. You're just getting a little bit more money. This one here will get you some of the goods. This is one of the main ways that you're going to get goods throughout the game, so that you're actually able to build extra departments or be able to put out discs, paying the cost to put the discs out on here. And then we also have this purple one here, which is going to give you victory points every time you're going to take an income phase. So that's basically all of the departments. There are 4 different types of them. Now, like I said, with the management, you can continuously add different departments in here. Now, at the end of the game, depending on how many departments that you have on your board, you're going to be able to score some victory points for those as well at the end, so just keep that in mind. Now, whenever you're moving your employees around, activate them. Whenever you're moving them and you're placing them in using the typical movements, like the movements that you're able to use because you have workers there, any that are laying down are not activated, so you can't use them. But if you do have enough money to be able to activate them, then you'll be able to. And the activation cost is just underneath of them. These ones are free here, so you'd be able to place them up. This one here is $5. This one is $2, and this one is $3. So as long as you have enough money and you want to activate them, then you can pay the cost for them and then just stand them all up. And that is how you're going to be activating your workers to be able to have more actions for each department. So the actions during your turn, I'll go into the structure about them. So first, you're going to take the gear, the first player, you're going to take the gear and you're going to place it onto the timeline, and you're going to select whichever one of the 4 departments that you actually want to use. Now this is going to trigger an event first, and the event would either be an income or a donation. So you're going to take your gear and you're going to place it on whichever one you want. I've already gone through the income phase, but that's basically, again, placing your gear on there, and you go to a spot where you have workers on, and you're going to take the income based on where you are up on the track, and you will take income based on where your projects tab is. So that is income. And then the next one, and that is a donation. So whenever you're placing it there, you get to take one of your discs and you're going to place it up here. And there is a cost to making a donation. So these are basically what you're going to be able to score extra on at the end of the game. So wherever you think that you have the highest score is probably something that you're going to want to take. So this one here is basically how many discs you have built up in that specific location, whether it be east, south, Midwest, or west. And then these ones right here, this one would be welfare. So it's basically how much you have of all of these. So whether it be goods or money or however many people that you have out standing up on your departments over here. And then this one right here, this one is human rights. So these are just victory points based on different buildings that you have built. And then we have education. So that is however many departments that you have built of a certain kind. So your first donation is $5, and every other donation is going to increase by $5. So the second donation you make will be 10, the third will be 15. So they continuously cost more. So that is how donations work. So depending on which action you want to take or whichever organization that you want to do is which row you're going to be placing the gear on. So if you have a lot of discs out and you want to build, maybe you would take in construction action, so you'd place it here. After your event, you would be able to go on to do the department action. Then maybe you need some of the goods to be able to build, so you're going to take one of the management actions. Maybe you have another department that you want to place out, you'd be able to select this here. So you're placing these discs out all over. So you're looking to connect them. The more cities that you can connect, all of the bigger ones here, and you can see because they have a chain on them, so you want to connect all of the bigger ones together. So there is this track up here, and it's going to show you if you can get 5 of them connected and you have all of your tracks in the green area here for your train. Depending on where you are, you need to have all of them in the green to be able to collect the highest point value up here, and that would be 36 points if you can get all of your tracks in the green and you can connect all 5 of the locations together. So that's how you're going to be able to collect points that way. And also when you're placing your discs out wherever there's victory points, you're going to gain that at the end as well. So depending on which action you want to do, depending on how many workers you have, how many goods you have, how many discs you have, depending on whichever action you want to do, that is how you're going to be able to select it. Now, obviously, there's 2 different actions that are going to be taken place, so that's something to think about. Now, once the first player is done their turn, then it's the second player's turn. They have to choose the action that you've selected. So you're basically selecting the action that all players are going to need to take. Then once their turn is finished, that's when you're going to move your train over to the next player, and then they become the first player. So what ends the game is once all of these have been selected. So once you go here, that's your action. End of the round, you're going to select that, you're going to place it up. And that's just kind of to keep track because you're placing the gear out on the leftmost location that's available. So once all of these come up, just like this at the end of the track, that is the end of the game. There is 20 rounds to the game. So you'll be able to collect some points throughout the game, but you're going to really collect a lot of those points at the end of the game because of all of the donations that you are able to make. So that is one thing that you're going to check at the end of the game. You're going to score up all of those donations. You're also going to score up however many departments that you have on your player board. Wherever you built them up, all of the victory points are marked right here, so you'll be able to score that. And there's also a reminder here down at the bottom for everything that you're going to be able to collect victory points for. Now in a 2-player game, we don't have these right here, but if you did, you'd be able to collect victory points off of them. This one right here is how many active workers you have in your departments, and those are going to score 1 victory point each. And we have the departments here. Now, one thing with the departments that I didn't mention is that you can build them anywhere. They don't actually have to be touching on each floor. You can place them up here if you want, because that's the most victory points that you can collect. So you'll be able to score victory points for those. So anything on the second row and these ones on the top row here. Then this one here, this would be any victory points that you would gain on any of these tracks. This would be for the chain links between all the cities. This is how many victory points you're going to be counting for wherever you have built in each city. And of course, the final one, which is the most victory points that you're going to get, would be from donations. So whoever at the end of the game has the most victory points is the player who has won Carnegie. So ease of learning the game, it's always a little bit easier for me to learn the game because I'm not the one who reads the rule book. Nick basically reads the rule book and then just explains to me what's going on. However, we did have a little bit of a harder time with this rule book. I think the rule book just wasn't as clear. There was a couple of times where Nick didn't really understand what he was reading, so there was a couple of BGG trips that we had to take with this rule book. Not that it's necessarily too hard to understand or too hard of a game, but it was just a little confusing wording wise and maybe just not too clear in the rule book. But once you understand, once you know how to play the game is super easy. It's super easy to understand. There's 4 actions that you can take, and whatever you can do is what you can do. But there's strategy to the game because there's a lot of different strategies that you can take with this game, and obviously the goal at the end of the game is to have the most victory points. But yeah, ease of learning was pretty easy once you figured out how to play. It's just a trickier game to do well in. But I would say easy learning, not that bad. You're going to probably have to take a couple of trips to BGG to fully understand the rules, I would say. But other than that, pretty easy. Doing well at the game, like I was just saying, is a different story. Gameplay for this, very, very thinky. But really rewarding. It's really fun. There's a lot of different strategies that you can take, whether you really go heavy on building in the cities because you're going to get a lot of those. A good way is to get a lot of money so that you can do a lot of donations, depending on how many donations that you're actually able to take. But a good way, get money and do a lot of donations on things that you think that you're going to do. And like strategy wise with those two, you want to hurry up and get them before any other player donates to that spot, because you don't want to miss out on them, right? Like, what if you do well throughout the game, maybe getting a lot of different tiles out, and you're going to get the victory points. So I think these ones for the donations, it goes up to a maximum of 12 victory points per each goal. It's like if you can get 4 out there or 5 out there, you'll be able to gain a lot of victory points just based off of that alone. But you're also going to score a lot of victory points building in the cities too, especially the larger cities, because they're worth 3 victory points each. So a lot of strategies, honestly, on how to win this game and how to play. There's a bunch of things going on, but I think that you can choose which that you want to do and focus on a little bit more, which is really nice, because I find when there's too many options and you have to do all of them, it gets a little overwhelming. But I did enjoy playing this game. It's a weird, maybe not weird, but a different area control game. It's really not attacky. I'm not into attacky area control games. Like, that's just not my type of game. I really enjoyed playing this one because it's not attacky at all, and because we're playing with the 2-player variant, because again, Nick and I just play 2-player games most of the time. Blocking these off make it a little bit more tight. However, I have not run out of spots to play on. Like, it's really not attacky, and I really like that about this game. I really like all of the components in this game too. This is just the retail version, and I think for the price of the retail version, there's no point on getting the deluxe version. Everything comes with chunky wood pieces, which is really nice. The first player marker, and then of course all of these ones too. Big, thick, chunky wood tokens. Like, nothing to say about those. Like, to me, that's wood pieces, to me, that is a deluxe component. I think it's deluxeified enough that you don't need the deluxe copy. The retail version is good, and I think it's a really good price too. I will say one thing for this game: the money is a little weird to me. We don't really like playing with this money just because of the shape, and it's just, we like playing with our iron clay, so we haven't even played with this money. I just took it out to show everybody that this is the money that it's come with. So I think that would be the only thing that I would say is the money in the game is just square tokens, but our iron clays work really well with this game, and I think the iron clays go pretty well with the theme too. Now, does the theme match up? Like, do you need the theme? I don't think you need the theme. The theme doesn't really come through in the game for me. You're basically just placing tiles and paying cubes for discs in the game. It's a map. So yeah, I don't know. The theme for me isn't really there. This one really could be anything. I do, however, there's not much artwork, but it is kind of like maybe like a drawn artwork. It's very like old to me, and with the colors, I do really like the colors, the pastel colors on here. I do like the little bit of artwork on this game. One thing that I don't like is the colors that you can pick for the players. You have yellow, blue, you have this gray black, and then you have a white. I think they could have done a little bit different, something different with the colors for the players, but that, as this channel would say, is a nitpick. And I do really enjoy the look of the game, and it's a fun game. I thoroughly enjoyed playing this game. I didn't think that I would. Based off of the box cover, I really didn't know what type of game it was going to be, but I really did enjoy it, and it's really good at 2 players too. This is a pretty good 2-player game. Even with the 2-player variant, it's just knocking some extra spots off, makes it just a little bit more tight. And my overall thought on the game, I like it. It's not attacky. It was fun to play, and it's thinky. It's a really thinky game, and I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't half bad at it. I haven't won yet, but I'm not half bad at it. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you next time.